Welcome to the Right Hand Roadmap, the podcast for seconds in command of founder-led companies. I'm your host, Megan Long, owner of Second First. In each episode, we show you the path to success on your journey as the #2 leader in entrepreneurial companies. I am so happy you are here. Welcome to the second quarterly Q&A of 2024. Each quarter, we do a question and answer episode answering listener submitted questions. You have a few options to submit a question for our next episode like this. You can visit secondfirst.com/podcast to find the submission box, or you can email your question to podcast@secondfirst.com. If your question is chosen for a podcast Q&A, it will be read anonymously. If your question is not chosen, we still reply privately with our advice or suggested resources. So no matter what, your question will be answered. And you all know the drill. We have to make legal happy, so I do have to give a disclaimer that this episode is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal or professional advice. And we're not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that arise from the use of this podcast, and the views expressed in this episode may not be those of the host or management. All right, let's dig in. First question. I work at a company that started as bookkeeping services, but we have started doing much more advising work. I feel like we're entering into regulated territory and am concerned about our exposure. The president of the company sees any sort of compliance or legal expenses as unnecessary. How can I convince them to spend money on defense versus offense? Boy, this is exactly why when we teach prioritization in our coaching framework, we include both importance and impact, because this is an example of a project or investment that ultimately might not move the needle on the business in terms of impact, but is massively important. So as a second in command, all you can really do is thoroughly lay out all of the information in an easy to understand format, so your president can make an informed decision. Ultimately, risk is a decision, right? You either adopt a control to mitigate the risk, or you just accept it. So for this, you'll have to look into what are like the possible penalties. What would the impact on your reputation be if you were found to be out of compliance? But also on the flip side, if you made the efforts to be compliant, would you get more clients? Would you have access to more investors? So there could be a positive impact. You also need to know what projects you would need to push in order to complete this. I don't know, like an audit. And of course, the financial cost, the money involved on the front end to complete. I'm assuming it would be an audit, right? So once you have all of these documented and your president can make a decision, then it's no longer your worry, honestly. And if you want some sort of like CYA in place, if you're truly worried about your involvement, then just make sure that it's either in an email or you have some sort of documentation that you presented all of the facts that you have, the impact, and the risk was accepted by your president. And then you have it documented that you truly did everything that you could do. All right, question number 2. I recently parted ways with my company as their COO. You've mentioned that a second in command is specific to what a CEO needs. Knowing that my experience was probably different from what my next position will require, how can I be an attractive candidate? Well, this is really one of the reasons why having a professional network is super important, not just for entrepreneurs, but for seconds in command as well. You're right. The second in command position is very unique to the needs of a CEO, but you should be able to suss that out in the interview. So usually they'll include if they need a CEO with more experience in sales or technology or whatever. And you can always ask the CEO what his or her strengths are and what they would want a COO to be stronger in to supplement their skills. So, I mean, if that's not you, then that's not you, and you can just be honest with that. Okay, and let's talk about finding your next role. So first, optimize your LinkedIn profile. So update your banner, look like a thought leader, have a really good headline, have a really good headshot, post at least once a week about something regarding leadership or small business, or repost an article with some thoughts on it, just something to make it seem like you're a thought leader in your space. And also, don't set your profile to open to work. And this is different. I'm not talking about marking it so like recruiters know that you're open to talking to them. I'm talking about that green circle around your profile picture that says open to work. Don't do that. That communicates like something's wrong. Like either you were fired or you're not in demand. I can't explain it, but there's just something off-putting about it from like an executive standpoint. So don't do that. Do work with recruiters, find an executive recruiter that comes highly referred in your market to partner with, and hopefully they will get you in touch with the person that is the right fit for you as a second in command. All right, and we're only doing 3 today, so this is going to be a really nice, short, bite-sized episode. Third question, I've worked for the owner of my company for 3 years now. I started as a project manager and was promoted to COO. She and I don't agree on the future of the company. She's comfortable with very slow growth, if any. I think we should be more aggressive and feel like she's holding a lot of us back. How do I convince her to think bigger? Ugh, honey. And I say honey in a gender-neutral, non-condescending way. I don't think you're going to like my answer. There's something you have to do as a second in command for a founder. You have to reconcile that your career and earnings are tied to that founder's desire for the future and their risk appetite. As an entrepreneur, you hold all of the risk. Like literally your mortgage on your house could be tied to loans for your business. There's no division between personal and professional. It's all just one life. So if she wants to be conservative and hold her business as more of a lifestyle business, that's wonderful. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that value freedom, flexibility, and time more than money. I've also been having a lot of conversations with fellow entrepreneurs that have realized that revenue is a vanity metric. They're not interested in continuing to invest into growing that top line revenue, but rather are focused on how they can be leaner and more efficient and grow EBITDA or grow profit. So when you say she's holding us back because she's not interested in aggressive growth, first, focus on yourself, because you really shouldn't be talking to other employees about this anyway. But as a second in command, I think it's important for there to be that transparency of what the exit plan or what the succession plan is. And if you're an entrepreneur listening to this, you really owe your second in command that conversation as well. If you're unsure, schedule a 1 to 2 hour meeting, maybe offsite with her, and ask her, what's your big goal with the business? Do you want to sell in 10 years? Will you hand it down to your children? And this is an opportunity for you to be honest as well with what's important to you. So what are your professional goals? What are your wealth goals? Do you want to be at a company where you eventually have equity or get to be part of an exit? Or is stability more important to you? Do you just want to hit a certain W-2 amount? If after this conversation you discover that you're not aligned, then it's better to know now and begin talking about what a timeline for you to be replaced looks like. Look, it's like when you were dating. You have to talk about whether or not you want kids. Like that's a huge decision. And you don't want to be married for 7 years before you realize that you want kids and your partner doesn't. So the CEO-COO relationship truly is like a weird little marriage. You have to be in sync and on the same page about these big career decisions for it to work. And frankly, she deserves that too, because she's not going to get your top performance if you're sitting there feeling resentment or going around having this conversation with other employees. So it's better just to have that open and honest conversation now rather than wait. To find show notes and links for anything mentioned in this episode, visit secondfirst.com/16. Be sure to subscribe to catch future episodes and leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Remember, you don't have to navigate being a second in command alone when you have the right hand roadmap.